Yo, so I've been working on this. Oh, wow. I'm not going to say yo. Yo.
What up, dude? Hello, fellow kid.
I've been working on this style frame for Frame Fight in Figma for whatever reason. I was inspired by Cosimo Galluzzi, and it's probably definitely not how you say his name, and Moebius, and wanted to do like a vector version of like a kind of spooky cultist like summoning scene. And this was my original sketch, and then I've been working on it for a couple days, so it ended up here, and then I added more detail, and then here we are now. But that's not what this video is about. This video is about putting texture on it in Photoshop. So I just kicked this bad boy out. I want to have some like grit, and I want to play with the colors a bit. This is my process for adding interest to almost all of my vector illustrations if I do something like this. Like I do this fairly often. So I'm going to dupe my original guy and make it into a smart object. And then I have this reference the entire time moving forward. So I'm going to dupe it. I'm going to take this duped version and just shift it in my hue a little bit. I kind of want to get some like pinks in my yellows, like kind of get it in like a middle area where the color is a little bit weird. I'm going to saturate it a bit more. So I'm going to like shift it probably negative 30 degrees. Saturate it plus 15 is a little too saturated. I think maybe 9. And then what I'm going to do here, this is like the key to all of this, probably something I'll do a million times, is just add a layer mask down here. If you click on this layer mask, that's going to mean anything that you paint in this layer that's black. Over here, you can see my brush is currently black. Anything you paint that's black is going to be see-through. Anything that's white is not going to be see-through. So you can already see like here, something interesting starts to happen when you paint these out. So I'm going to go through, and with a chunkier brush, I'm just going to start doing lines straight across my canvas. Like just literally draw almost like scribbles across your canvas. And I try to make like interesting tangents on these corners wherever I can to try to like draw your eye around the composition a bit. And then oftentimes I'll just flip this and draw some white back in here. I pressed X. So you can see I'm like adding some back again, and then I'm going to start subtracting some again, and it gets like these really unique, interesting shapes. So this is already starting to look cool. Like the A and B, I love the after a lot more. But I want to add some like gray, and I don't want it to be so sharp. I want it to feel a little more natural. So I'm going to go over here and use a blur tool. Right now I'm using one of Kyle's concept blurs. It's an all-purpose blender, but you'll see that what this can do is it'll just blend the edge of my shapes. And this is all, I'm still doing this down here in this layer mask. I have it selected. So I'm going to go back and just kind of start painting out, leaving some of them a little bit sharp because it's interesting looking. It's almost like you're using tape while you're painting. Like getting that harsh edge is cool some places. So I'm leaving it. I'm just kind of selectively removing it in others. And I'm just working my way around the canvas, finding places where I can add a little bit of detail. If there's places where it's distracting, I'm going to brush it out a bit, like here, you know, I like having it blended a little more. It feels more like light with that kind of deity being summoned back there. And then I'm just going to keep working. Is there anywhere else I want it? Maybe here. See if there's, you know, anything standing out to me. Like over here, these are a little too sharp. I'm going to blur those a bit. And now I can see, okay, we've already started to add some interest to this, but I don't think it's shifted enough. We could play with it more. You know, we could go like really wild with it. But that's not necessarily what I want to do. I think I might just bring it a little further. We were at like negative 20 before. I think we're going to shift it to 30 now. Yeah, I like that better because we're getting like this red up here. It almost feels like infrared or something. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm also going to, again, I found like a sharp edge there I don't love. And then if there's ever areas where I might want to add some more of that color back, I come in here and I just splotch it on. Like the top of his hat, I want to have a little bit more. So I come in here again and I'll blur it. So now this gradient matches that gradient. And we're starting to get like some interesting stuff going on here. It already feels a little more unique. Now I'm probably going to go and add a little bit of color correction. So I'm going to come up here and add a new adjustment layer because I can do the same thing with an adjustment layer. You can add a mask like that to anything. So I'm going to add a hue and saturation layer. And over here, you'll see I have controls now. So I can shift this, see if I want to move the whole thing in any direction. I'm just putting this here so I have a little more control over my color. Right now we're like in this green space, and if I want to shift it all over a bit to this more yellowy green, a little bit more pink, it feels almost like rot opposed to like earth. I think that fits my vibe a little better. So I'm going to do that. I'm not going to put a mask on this. I like this the way it is. The next thing I'm going to do to push that a bit is come up here and add another adjustment layer for color balance. So a color balance allows me to set how weighted CMY and their inverse are in my shadows, mids, and highlights. So I'm going to go into my highlights. I want to bring out my pinks a little more. I keep saying pink. I like that almost like fleshy tone that it gives across. It's cool. And then a little more yellow. My midtones, I want those to be green and yellow for sure. Like that's the vibe I'm looking for. And then I think my shadows, I want them to just shift a little bit more cool. I'm going to give them a little bit more blue. I'm going to give them a little magenta. I realize it's not really cool. And I'm going to give them a little cyan. And then this feels good. Like I like that this has crunched a bit. The whole thing feels a little bit darker. So now I am going to add another new adjustment layer. This time I'm going to add levels, and we're going to use our levels to just, bring out some of those lower colors again. Maybe crunch our highlights a little bit. We can just play here with what we need to do. Do we like the before and after? I do. So now what I'm going to do is kind of combine all of this so we can start f***ing it up, So I'm going to group it all, and then we're going to combine this into a smart object. And then now we can just throw stuff at it. We have all the original layers if we wanted to, but we also now have this layer that we can just kind of mess with. So that's what we're going to do. The first thing I want to do is I think I'm going to go in here and add like a blur gallery. I like adding a field blur to my stuff sometimes to just give it a little bit of mistake or like no focus in some areas. So I'm going to go around and put 0 blur on a couple spots. On our corners and maybe just a couple spots, add just a light blur, like a 5 or 6 for the value here. Maybe even lower than that, just where it kind of feels like it's slightly out of focus. But that's cool. We're going to say, okay. And then what I like to do with that is it kind of like softens our edge. And then we can, as I usually do in like all of my stuff, add a grain to it. So filter gallery. And then we'll have grain. These settings are already dialed into something I probably used previously for something similar, so they might not be too far off. Contrast is a little bit high. I don't want to like add a bunch more contrast to this already. So I'm gonna probably use, let's see, there's a regular grain. A soft grain feels a little nicer, a little less intrusive. I want to feel the grain. I just don't want it to be too overpowering. I dig this. It's cool. Already feeling better. And then I might again image adjustment, hue saturation. Anything I do here, you can add to a smart layer. The reason I did them as layers before was because I was affecting multiple things underneath it. Now that that's all combined, I can just kind of this smart object and then it'll apply to everything in there. So I'm just going to shift the hues around, see like, do I like it better somewhere else? Sometimes I have like happy accidents here. I originally imagined this to be kind of like Lovecraftian in this like blue area, but I kind of like how it's feeling over here in this pinky area. So I'm gonna shift it over a bit, and then I'm gonna up my saturation. This is like maybe my toxic trait. I just like to drag this meter all the way. But I'm not gonna drag it all the way. I think we'll put it at like 30. Yeah, look at that A and B. Like this pops so much more. And then I might do the same thing that I did before. I might like add another shifted bit on top. So I'm gonna duplicate this. I'm again going to shift it a little more towards pink, put a mask on this, and then we're going to redo the same process you saw me do. We can do it quick. I like that a lot. We'll merge this together as a smart object now. Yeah, it feels much better, at least for the vibe I'm trying to go for. And now I can add, if I want to do any final levels to adjust what those midpoints look like or anything like that, I can do. So I think I might tweak just a few of these. Yeah, there we go. And I'd call that bad boy done. And wow, look at that, before and after, beautiful. And hey, if you're still here, maybe watch these other videos. Check these guys out. They're pretty fun. You might even learn something. Okay, thank you, bye.